The wind moved across the wide alien fields. The sound of machines filled the air. The harvesters stood like giant monsters, their long arms cutting everything that touched their path. The ground shook with every turn of the blades, dust rose in the air like a cloud, and the sky glowed with a strange pale light. In the middle of this field, a small figure walked slowly. It was a young alien girl. Her feet bare, her clothes torn, her eyes wide with fear. She looked back again and again, hoping to see kindness, but behind her stood only her family. Cold faces, silent mouths, eyes that refused to meet hers. They did not touch her hand. They did not whisper comfort. They only pushed her forward, step by step. Closer and closer to the screaming blades, her heart beat fast, she wanted to cry. But no sound came from her lips. The harvesters roared louder. Their iron mouths opened like beasts ready to swallow. The girl stopped, her small hands shaking, her body weak. But her family's shadow moved behind her. They would not stop. They would not turn back. Her mother's eyes were wet but empty. Her father's jaw was hard and cold. Her brothers stood stiff, their faces carved in stone. They all looked at her as if she was not one of them anymore, as if she had become a burden, a mistake, a curse. The girl lifted her voice, soft and breaking. "Please," she whispered, but no one answered, no one saved her. No one pulled her close. The field was alive with sound. Metal grinding, crops falling, the giant harvester's wheels crushing the earth. It was a place where no child should stand. Yet here she was, left alone. Her mother turned her face away, unable to watch. Her father whispered words the girl could not hear, but she knew what they meant. They meant goodbye, they meant sacrifice. The girl stumbled forward. The heat of the machines burned her skin. The air tasted like smoke. Her eyes filled with tears. She was close now, so close that the blades shone in her reflection. Fear froze her legs. She wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The machine stretched wide, a wall of moving death. She raised her hands in front of her face as if that could stop steel. Behind her, the family stepped back. They were leaving her. Leaving their child, their blood. In front of the harvester's blades, the girl's heart screamed, "Why? Why me?" But no answer came, only silence, only distance, only the roar of the monster machine. The harvester did not care. It did not know the meaning of family. It did not see innocence or cruelty. It only cut and crushed, like it had done for many seasons. Her small body shook. She closed her eyes, waiting for the end. The sound of the blades filled her ears. The shadow of the harvester fell over her like night. She was nothing now. Nothing but one more life lost in the fields. The machine screamed louder. The ground trembled harder. The smell of burning oil spread in the air. The girl opened her eyes for one last look. Her family was gone. Their backs turned, their steps heavy but sure. They did not look back. They would never look back. Her chest filled with pain, not just of fear, but of betrayal, a deep wound that no blade could match. The harvester's blades came closer, the tips shining, the sound breaking the air like thunder. Every second stretched like forever, her breathing fast, her heart faster, the ground shaking under her weak legs. She thought of her home, the small room where she once laughed, the warm meals, the stories whispered before sleep. And now, all of that felt like a lie. A dream that had turned into dust. The machine's shadow swallowed her completely. She stood alone, helpless, abandoned. The moment was endless. Fear wrapped her like chains. Hope died inside her chest, and then, just before the blades touched, just before the machine could claim her, her eyes caught something far away. A figure standing in the distance, watching. It was not her family. It was not one of her kind. It was something different, something strange, something human. The girl's lips trembled. She did not know if it was real or only her last vision. But in that instant, her small heart whispered, maybe, just maybe, she was not truly alone. The harvester roared, the blade spun, the family was gone, and the shadow of the human figure stood at the edge of the field. The story was only beginning. The night sky above the alien world was wide and endless. Stars glimmered like frozen sparks. 2 moons hung low, one pale white and the other glowing faint blue, their light spilling across the endless fields. A lone human walked across the strange land, boots heavy on soil that was not earth, a rifle slung across his shoulder, his helmet light scanning the crops. His name was Daniel Ross, soldier, explorer, and unwilling farmer's guard. He did not belong here, not really, but humans had come to this colony years ago, trading technology for food, trading knowledge for survival, and now it was his turn to patrol, to make sure the machines harvested without threat. Daniel hated the silence. Hated the way the harvesters moved like sleeping giants, their blades slicing without thought. their wheels crushing without care. He knew one wrong step could mean death. Every patrol felt the same, long hours, endless steps. The only company was the hum of machines and the alien wind. But tonight something felt different. A tension in the air. A weight pressing down. His comm crackled. A faint voice from the outpost. "Ross? Report your status." He pressed the side of his helmet. "Patrol steady. Machines are working. No threat detected," he said. Though his gut whispered another story. He stopped suddenly, his boots sinking into the dirt. His eyes narrowing. There was movement ahead, small, fragile, something that did not fit in this place. He raised his visor, the air sharp and dry against his skin, and squinted. Yes, there it was. A figure tiny, almost lost against the shadow of the harvester. Daniel's chest tightened. "What the hell?" he muttered under his breath. He moved closer, careful but quick, his hand ready on his weapon, not because he thought it was dangerous, but because on alien ground caution was survival. The light from his helmet spread forward, and the shape became clearer. It was a child, no, not a human child, but one of them. One of the colony's natives, skin pale with a strange shimmer, eyes wide like glass. Daniel froze, confusion cutting into his mind. What was she doing here, right in front of the blades? The machine was moving. Unstoppable, and in seconds it would cut her down. He could hear the roar of metal, smell the oil, feel the vibration under his feet. The harvester was close, too close. The child stood trembling, her small frame shaking, her arms raised like she was trying to hold back the entire machine with her bare hands. Daniel's instinct screamed, soldier or not, patrol or not. He could not stand still. He had seen death before. He had buried comrades on far-off worlds, but this was different. This was a child. He bolted forward, his boots pounding the soil, the sound of his breathing harsh inside his helmet. "Move, move!" he shouted, though he knew she did not understand his language. The machine's blades turned, inches away now, spinning, screaming, promising death. Daniel reached for the control pad on his wrist, fingers slamming against buttons, trying to override the machine. But the system lagged. Error lights blinked red. The harvester did not stop. He cursed, tore the helmet from his head and dove forward, arms stretching. The child's eyes widened as a shadow fell over her. Not the harvester's shadow this time, but the human's, his arms wrapping around her small body, pulling her to the ground with all the strength he had. The machine screamed past, the blades cutting air where she had stood. Sparks flying, the earth ripped apart in a violent roar. Daniel held her close, both of them lying flat in the dirt. His heart racing, her breath shallow. The harvester rolled on, missing them by the width of a hand. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the sound of his ragged breathing and her small trembling gasps. He lifted his head, dirt clinging to his face. Sweat dripping down, his eyes met hers wide, shining with tears and fear. He spoke softly now, voice rough but gentle. "You're safe." Though he knew she did not understand, still the words felt needed. She did not answer. Her lips trembled, her small hands clutching at his arm, not in trust, not yet, but in raw fear of losing the last thing standing between her and death. Daniel slowly sat up, keeping her close, his mind racing with questions. Why was she here? Who left her? Where was her family? He looked around the field, but there was no one, only shadows, only silence. Something about the way she looked back over her shoulder, something about the emptiness in her eyes, told him the truth before words ever could. She had been left, abandoned. His chest tightened, anger rising inside him. Not at her, never at her, but at whoever had done this, whoever had left a child in front of a machine's blades. Daniel Ross, soldier of Earth, had fought wars, had seen cruelty, but this betrayal cut deeper than anything. The girl shivered in his arms, and he knew one thing for certain. She was not safe yet. Not from the machines, not from the world, and maybe not even from her own kind. As the moons glowed brighter overhead, Daniel stood with the child in his arms, the night heavy with questions, the field still alive with danger, and deep inside his mind one thought echoed. He had not just saved a child. He had stepped into something larger, something dangerous, something that would change everything, and far behind them in the shadows, unseen eyes watched, waiting, judging, silent. The patrol was no longer routine. The night was no longer quiet. The human had seen the abandoned child, and nothing would ever be the same again. The story had only just begun. The harvester did not stop, its iron teeth turning, its wheels tearing the earth, its engine roaring like thunder across the alien night. Daniel Ross knew he had seconds, not minutes. The override on his wrist had failed. The system refused his command. The machine was blind, deaf, and merciless. The girl trembled in his arms, her skin cold against his gloves. Her wide silver eyes filled with terror. She did not cry. She did not scream. She was frozen as if fear had stolen her voice. Daniel's heart pounded, sweat ran down his face. He could hear the blades spinning faster, feel the heat of the machine burning against his back. Come on, come on, he muttered, his hand slamming against the control pad again. Error lights flashing red. No response. The harvester would not obey. He pulled the girl close and rolled across the dirt, the blades cutting down behind them, sparks flying as steel kissed stone. The earth split with every strike. The sound was unbearable, metal grinding, soil tearing, dust exploding into the air, the harvester chasing forward. Blind to the lives before it, Daniel lifted his head, his eyes searching there just beyond the field. A small service tower stood, its lights faint, but its console still active if he could reach it. He could shut down the machine manually, but the tower was far, and the harvester was closer. Every step would be a gamble. He turned to the girl, her thin frame pressed against his chest, her breath shallow and fast. She clutched his sleeve with tiny fingers, as if letting go would mean death. Daniel gritted his teeth. "Hold on," he whispered. Though she could not understand his words, his tone was enough. He stood, his legs heavy, and ran, dirt flying under his boots, the roar of the machine behind him growing louder. The harvester followed its path, its shadow swallowing them, its blades reaching forward like claws of a monster. The girl glanced back, her eyes wide. She buried her face into his chest, and Daniel pushed harder, lungs burning, muscles screaming. Every second felt endless. Every step felt like the last. The tower loomed closer, but the harvester was faster. The ground shook under their feet. Daniel dove forward, landing hard, rolling with the child clutched to him. The impact rattled his bones, but he did not stop. He scrambled to his feet, staggered, and kept running. The tower was close now, close enough to see the consoles glow. Hope flickered in his chest. Behind him the blades cut the air, so close he could feel the wind of their spin, the edge of death brushing against his back. He reached the tower, slammed into the console, one hand holding the girl, the other flying across the screen. The system demanded codes, demanded authority. Daniel cursed, his fingers tapping faster, override after override, his mind racing. The harvester shrieked, the ground beneath the tower shaking, the blades nearly upon them. And then, with a final strike on the console, the system responded. The red lights turned green. The harvester screamed one last time, and stopped, its blades locking in place, the sound cutting off like a throat silenced. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Broken only by the rasp of Daniel's breath and the small gasps of the girl. He collapsed against the tower, sliding down to the ground, the child still in his arms, alive. For a long moment neither moved, the night around them calm again, the giant machine frozen like a dead beast. Daniel lowered the girl gently. She sat on the dirt, knees pulled close, eyes staring at him, not with trust, not yet, but with something else, a question, a spark of wonder. He pulled off his gloves, showing his human hands, scarred, rough but open. He held them out slowly, not to grab, not to command, but to offer. The girl tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting the faint tower light. She did not move closer, but she did not move away either. Daniel spoke softly, his voice calm though his heart still raced. "You're safe now, do you understand? Safe?" She blinked, then touched the dirt with her small fingers, drawing faint lines, shapes, maybe words, maybe just fragments of thought. Daniel watched, curious, cautious. He knew communication would not be easy, but this was the first step. The girl looked at him again, her lips parting as if to speak, but no sound came. She closed them quickly, fear still chained to her voice. Daniel felt anger rise again, not at her silence, but at the reason behind it. Someone had left her here. Someone had chosen to let the machine take her life. He glanced back at the harvester, its blades frozen inches from where she had stood. His stomach turned. This was no accident, no mistake. This was intentional. The girl shivered, the night air cold on her fragile body. Daniel removed his jacket and wrapped it around her. She flinched at first, then slowly allowed it, the warmth surprising her for the first time. A faint softness touched her eyes, a flicker of something close to safety. Daniel leaned back, his body aching, his mind heavy with questions. Why was she abandoned? What did her family fear? What danger did they believe she carried? The field stretched silent, the stars above watching. The moon's shining pale light. And Daniel knew this was only the beginning. He had saved her from the machine. But the real danger had not passed in the shadows beyond the fields. Shapes moved, faint, distant, but real, watching him. Watching the girl and Daniel Ross, soldier of Earth, realized he had stepped into a storm far greater than any he had known. The rescue was complete. But the battle for truth was just beginning. The harvester stood silent now, its blades frozen, its engines cold, the danger gone, yet the air around the tower still felt heavy, like a storm waiting to return. Daniel sat against the metal wall, chest heaving, sweat dripping, his arms aching from the rescue. Beside him sat the alien girl, small, fragile, wrapped in his jacket, her silver eyes reflecting the faint glow of the console. For a long time neither spoke. Silence stretched between them, a silence filled with questions. Daniel rubbed his face, his thoughts racing. Who is she? Why was she here? No child would wander into a harvester's path by accident. Someone had left her. Someone had wanted her gone. He turned his head slowly, studying her. She sat with knees pulled close, hands folded, body trembling now and then. She looked young, maybe 8, maybe 9 in human years, but he could not be sure. Her kind aged differently. "Hey," he said softly, his voice low, calm. He raised his hands to show peace. "You're safe," the girl blinked, tilted her head but did not answer. Her lips pressed tight. Her eyes darted away. Daniel tried again, pointing to himself. "Daniel," he said, then tapped his chest. "Daniel," his tone clear, slow. Her eyes returned to him. Cautious, she raised a hand, touched her chest lightly, then whispered a sound, faint, broken, almost lost. It was a name, soft and strange, but it was hers. Daniel repeated it clumsily, his tongue struggling with the alien syllables. She flinched at first, then slowly nodded. It was the first connection, a thin bridge across fear. But the questions burned inside him. "Why were you there?" he asked, pointing toward the harvester, making a cutting motion with his arm, trying to show the danger. "Why?" The girl looked down, her hands tracing shapes into the dirt. Her shoulders tense, she did not speak. She did not need to. Her silence was an answer of its own. Daniel's jaw tightened. Her family, he thought, they left her. The idea filled him with anger, with disbelief. No parent, no kin should abandon a child. Not like this. He wanted to press her, to demand truth. But then he saw the way she hugged her knees tighter, the way her small frame shook, and he stopped. He remembered faces from his past. Villages on distant worlds, children who had lost everything. Silence often carried the heaviest stories. The wind moved across the fields, carrying dust and cold. The night deepened. The 2 moons climbed higher. Daniel sighed, his gaze lifting to the stars. He had thought patrol duty would be simple, mechanical, boring. Now it felt like he had stepped into something far more dangerous. He glanced back at the girl, and then he saw it for the first time. A faint glow on her forehead, just above her eyes. A small mark shining like silver fire. Daniel froze, his breath catching. The glow was not bright, but it pulsed, slow and steady, alive. The girl noticed his stare, quickly pulling the hood of his jacket over her head, hiding the mark, her hands shaking. "Wait," Daniel whispered, leaning closer, but she turned away, curling tighter. Fear flooding her eyes. His mind raced. That mark, it means something. He had heard rumors in the outpost. Whispers of natives born with signs, rare, feared, sometimes killed, sometimes worshipped. Pieces clicked together. Her family had not abandoned her out of mistake. They had abandoned her because of the mark. Daniel's fist clenched, anger burning in his chest. He wanted to shout, to curse, but he kept calm. The girl had already lived enough fear. She did not need more. Instead, he spoke softly. "It's okay." His voice low, steady. He tapped his chest again. "Safe." She peeked at him from under the hood, eyes wet, lips trembling. For a moment he thought she might speak. Her mouth opened, but then she closed it quickly. Looking away, Daniel exhaled, long and heavy. "This is bigger than me," he thought. "This child carries a secret." The mark pulsed faintly again under the fabric. As if answering his thoughts, the night stretched on. The fields quiet except for the distant hum of other machines. The world around them vast and strange. Daniel knew he could not leave her, not here, not with that mark, not with danger still circling unseen. He looked at her one more time, her small form curled beside him, fragile yet holding a power she herself seemed afraid of. He whispered into the quiet, more to himself than to her. "Whatever you are, whoever left you, you're mine to protect now." The girl's eyes flickered toward him for the first time, not only with fear, but with something else, something like a spark of trust. Faint, fragile but real. And somewhere far away in the fields, in the shadows where the moons did not reach, figures watched, their eyes cold, their whispers sharp. They had seen the glow too. They had seen the human take her. The secret was no longer hidden. The hunt had already begun. Daniel did not know it yet. But saving her from the harvester was only the first step. The real danger, the real story, was waiting in the darkness ahead. The night was deep and silent, the stars sharp above, the two moons hanging heavy over the wide alien fields. Daniel sat awake against the cold metal wall of the service tower, his rifle across his lap, the alien girl sleeping lightly beside him, his jacket wrapped around her small body. But even in sleep, her secret refused to stay hidden. The faint silver glow on her forehead pulsed like the beat of a second heart, soft, steady, impossible to ignore. Daniel's eyes stayed locked on it, every flicker raising questions he could not answer. He had seen strange things during his time on colonies, storms that spoke like voices, rivers that burned like fire, but never this, never a living mark etched into flesh. His mind searched for memory, for rumor, and yes, he remembered now. Whispers he had heard back at the outpost. Stories the locals told in hushed tones. Children born with the glow were rare, cursed, dangerous, touched by something older than the fields. Older than the harvesters. Some said they carried power to destroy. Others said they carried power to heal. But either way, the stories always ended the same. Their families feared them. Their villages rejected them. They were driven into the fields or given to the machines, abandoned before they could grow. Daniel's fists clenched around his rifle. Anger burned in his chest, not at the child, never at her, but at the cruelty of it, the blind fear that had left her alone to die. The girl stirred beside him, the glow on her forehead pulsing brighter for a moment. As if it felt his thoughts, she opened her silver eyes slowly. Tired but watchful, Daniel leaned toward her, voice soft, careful. "The mark," he whispered, pointing gently to his own forehead, then to hers. "What does it mean?" She froze, her small hands rising quickly to pull the hood of his jacket over her head again. Hiding the light, her eyes darted away, her lips pressing tight, her body curling small. Daniel sighed, lowering his rifle, raising both hands in peace. "It's okay," he said, his tone calm. "I'm not afraid." The words seemed to confuse her. She looked back at him slowly, searching his face as if trying to decide whether he spoke truth. For the first time, her lips parted, her voice soft, shaky but clear enough. "Danger," she whispered, the single word heavy with fear. Daniel frowned. "Danger?" he repeated. She nodded once, her eyes wet, her small hands clutching the jacket tighter. "Family." "Afraid," her words broken, her language mixed with his, but enough to understand. Her family had not hated her. They had feared her. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her they were wrong, that she was not danger, but before he could. The glow on her forehead flared again, stronger this time. The console behind them beeped faintly, lights flickering as if touched by unseen energy. The air around them grew heavy, a low hum vibrating through the tower walls. The girl gasped, covering her head, whispering fast in her own language. Words Daniel could not understand. He reached out slowly, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "It's okay, breathe, slow down," his voice steady. Grounding. The glow dimmed, the console lights calmed. The hum faded, Daniel's eyes widened, realization sinking into him. The mark was not just decoration, not just a curse or symbol, it was power, real and alive. He whispered under his breath, "You can affect the machines." The girl looked up at him, tears shining, and gave the smallest nod. Daniel leaned back, his mind spinning. She could shut them down. She could control them, maybe even destroy them. No wonder her family had feared her. No wonder they had abandoned her. But fear was only one side of truth. If she could control machines, she could also protect. She could change the colony's future. He studied her face, her trembling lips, her fragile body wrapped in his jacket, and he saw not a weapon, not a curse, but a child. "You're not danger," he said firmly, his voice hard with conviction. "You're hope." She blinked, confusion in her eyes, but a small flicker of warmth too. For the first time, she let the hood fall back, the silver glow shining freely, steady now, calm, no longer hidden. Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine, not of fear, but of awe. The night itself seemed to bow before the mark, the stars above reflecting in her glowing skin. And then, far across the field, a light blinked, not from the moons, not from the stars, But from other towers, other machines responding to the pulse one by one, their consoles flickered. Their engines shifted. Daniel stood quickly, scanning the horizon, his hand tight on his rifle. "Damn it," he muttered. "They'll see this." The girl looked at him, her glow dimming fast, fear returning. She whispered again, voice trembling. "Hunters!" Daniel froze, the word sharp, heavy. "Hunters?" She nodded, her eyes darting to the dark horizon. And in the silence of the night, carried by the wind, came faint sounds. Footsteps, whispers, not human, not friendly. The mark had revealed itself, the world had seen. And now the hunters were coming. Daniel's jaw tightened. His rifle ready, his body tense, he stepped in front of the girl. Shielding her with his frame, he whispered low, steady, a promise etched in his voice. "They will not take you." The glow on her forehead pulsed once more. Not in fear this time, but in answer. The night was no longer silent. The meaning of the mark was clear, and the battle for the child's life had truly begun. The night did not rest. The wind carried whispers across the fields. The silver glow on the girl's forehead had faded to a dim flicker, but its memory still hung heavy in the air. Daniel stood tall, rifle in his hands, eyes on the horizon, every sense sharp. He could feel them before he could see them. Movement in the dark, shadows cutting through the moonlight. The girl pressed against the tower wall, her small body trembling, her eyes fixed on the distance. She whispered again, almost too soft to hear. "Hunters!" Daniel lifted his rifle. His heart steady, his breath calm, then he saw them, figures stepping into the pale glow of the moons. It was not strangers. It was not faceless hunters. It was her family, her father, her mother, her brothers, and behind them, others from their village, villagers carrying torches, spears, and cold eyes. Daniel's jaw clenched, his chest heavy with anger. They had left her to die, and now they returned. The girl gasped, her silver eyes wide. She pressed herself smaller, torn between longing and fear. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Mother." Her mother stepped forward, face pale, eyes shining with tears, but her hands were steady, her voice sharp. "Give her back." Daniel said nothing, only stared, his rifle held low but ready. The father's voice followed, deep and commanding, "She does not belong to you. Human, she is ours, she must return." Daniel's teeth ground together. He spat his words like steel. "Return? You left her in front of a machine's blades." The father's eyes hardened. "It was mercy," he said, his tone like stone. "Better to be taken by the harvest than to bring ruin to us all." The girl shook her head, her small hands clutching Daniel's sleeve, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Please," she whispered. Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between her and the villagers, his voice low but sharp. "She is a child," the brothers snarled, their spears raised, their eyes burning with fear more than hate. The villagers murmured, whispers running like fire. The mark, the glow, it was seen. It will bring the hunters, it will bring destruction. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Or it will bring hope," he said firmly. The villagers recoiled, some spitting, some shaking their heads, their fear louder than his reason. Her mother stepped closer, her eyes finally meeting the girl's. And for a heartbeat the mask of fear cracked. Softness flickered, love almost returned, but then she looked away, her voice breaking. "Child, forgive me, but you cannot stay, you are marked," the girl cried out, her voice sharp and breaking. The first true cry Daniel had heard from her. "I don't want to go." The sound cut the air. Heavy and raw, Daniel turned to her, kneeling. His voice steady, strong. "You don't have to," he said, then turned his gaze back to her family, his words like iron. "She stays with me." The father's jaw tightened. His hand raised, and the villagers stepped forward, spears in hand, voices chanting, fear turning into violence. The girl's glow pulsed again, silver light spilling from her forehead. The console of the tower flickered. The harvester in the distance rumbled. The villagers froze, some falling back, some dropping their weapons, their fear now real, their whispers frantic. The mark awakens." Daniel stood firm. The girl behind him, the light glowing brighter, his rifle ready, his voice sharp. "You will not take her," her mother cried out, torn, her hands reaching forward but her feet refusing to move, caught between love and terror. The father growled, his voice a command. "She will bring death, the hunters are already coming." And then the wind carried a sound across the field, a sound not made by villagers, not made by harvesters, a low metallic hum, heavy footsteps shaking the soil. Machines in the dark, machines not of human make. The girl whispered again, her voice trembling. "Hunters?" Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle, his heart pounding. This was no longer just family and fear. This was something bigger, something worse. The villagers looked to the dark horizon. Their fear now pure, some stepped back, some turned to flee. The father's voice broke, softer now, desperate. "Give her to us, human. If they find her with you, they will kill us all." Daniel's eyes burned, his voice a growl. "If they want her, they'll have to come through me." The girl's glow flared again, silver light spreading across the field, the harvesters humming as if answering her, machines bowing to her presence. The villagers gasped, some falling to their knees. Torn between fear and awe, her mother whispered, tears streaming. "She is not curse. She is chosen." The words cracked the silence. The truth breaking through fear. Daniel stepped closer to the girl, his body shielding hers, his voice steady. "Whatever she is, curse or chosen, she is not yours to abandon." Not anymore. The hunters' shadows grew closer, their shapes massive, their glow strange and cold. The villagers scattered, torn between staying and running, her family frozen in fear. And in the middle of it all, Daniel stood tall, the girl glowing at his side, the field trembling with power. The family had returned, but it was no longer their choice to make. The mark had spoken, the night had changed, and the real battle had only just begun. The ground trembled, the night filled with a low hum. The hunters were coming, their shadows stretched long across the field, tall metallic figures, their eyes glowing cold blue, their steps shaking the earth like drums of war. Daniel stood in front of the girl, rifle in his hands, his heart steady but his mind racing. He had faced enemies before, soldiers, raiders, machines, but this was different. This was a storm he did not understand. Behind him, the alien girl glowed again, the silver mark on her forehead burning brighter than ever, not with fear this time, but with something deeper, something awake. Her family stood frozen, torn between fleeing and fighting. The mother sobbing, the father rigid, the villagers whispering prayers to gods that had long since stopped listening. Daniel spoke without turning, his voice firm. "Stay close to me." The girl looked up at him, her small hand trembling as she reached for his sleeve. "They want me," she whispered, her words broken but clear. "If I go, you live?" Daniel shook his head sharply, eyes locked on the advancing hunters. "No. If they take you, nobody lives." The hunters marched closer, their metal bodies shining under the moons, their weapons humming with power. The villagers broke, some running into the fields, some dropping to their knees, their voices filled with terror. The marked one has called them." The girl flinched at their words, shame flashing in her eyes. She tried to pull away, but Daniel held firm, his voice low. "Ard, listen to me, you are not a curse. You are not their prey, you are more than they fear." The mark flared at his words, brighter, wilder. The harvesters in the distance roared to life, their engines humming as if her heartbeat was their command. The hunters paused, their cold eyes flickering, their machines shuddering under the pull of her power. The father stepped forward, desperation cracking his voice. "She cannot control it, human. She will destroy us all." Daniel turned, his anger sharp as steel. "No, you destroyed her when you abandoned her." "But she is still here, still fighting," the girl gasped, clutching her head, the glow bursting from her skin, the earth vibrating beneath her, the harvesters bowing toward her like giants kneeling. Daniel dropped to his knees beside her, holding her shoulders, his voice urgent but steady. "Focus, listen to me. You can choose, not them. Not your family, not the hunters. You." Her eyes burned with silver fire, her small voice shaking. I don't know how." "You do," Daniel said, his tone fierce, his eyes locked with hers. "Because you are still here. Because you chose to live." The hunters moved again, their weapons rising, the cold light aiming at the child. Daniel stood pulling her behind him, his rifle raised, his body ready to break before he would let them touch her. But the girl stepped forward instead, slipping past him, her glow blazing so bright it painted the night silver, her voice no longer small, no longer broken. "Stop!" The sound shook the field. The hunters froze mid-step, their weapons trembling, their lights flickering. The harvesters groaned, their massive blades locking into stillness. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath. The villagers cried out, some falling flat to the ground, others staring in awe, their fear shifting into something else, something closer to worship. The girl's small body shook, the power burning through her. Daniel reached forward, catching her before she collapsed, holding her close, steadying her. Her voice was weak now, but clear. "I can't hold much longer. Daniel looked at the frozen hunters, then back at her, his choice clear. His voice soft but strong. Then don't hold it alone. Let me carry it with you. She stared at him, her silver eyes wide, a tear sliding down her cheek. And for the first time she nodded. The glow spread, not just from her mark but into Daniel's hands as he held her, his body trembling under the surge, his vision filled with silver light. Together they stood, human and alien child, their breaths one, their power joined. The hunters screamed, their metal bodies twisting, their lights flickering out, one by one collapsing into the dirt, lifeless machines broken under the weight of her choice. Silence followed, heavy, complete, the wind carrying only the sound of villagers weeping, the harvesters bowing low, the fields calm again. Daniel fell to his knees, the girl still in his arms, both of them weak but alive. Her family stepped closer, her mother's voice breaking with guilt. Child, forgive us. The girl turned her head, eyes dim now, voice soft. You left me. Her father's face fell, his strength broken. No words could cover the truth. Daniel stood, pulling the girl gently to her feet, his eyes burning into theirs. She is not yours to abandon again. The villagers lowered their heads, silent, shamed, some whispering prayers, others backing away. The girl looked up at Daniel, her small hand finding his, her silver eyes tired but calm. Now, the harvest begins, she whispered, echoing words she barely understood herself. Daniel squeezed her hand, his voice steady. Then we'll face it together. The two moons glowed above. The hunters lay broken, the villagers scattered, and in the middle of the alien fields a soldier and a child stood side by side. Not curse, not burden, but choice. The final choice had been made, and the future of the world had changed forever.